Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Nikki never planned to say it out loud. Not to him. Not to Kane. But the moment the words slipped past her lips, she knew there was no taking them back. The room went still. Kane didn't move at first. He just stood there watching her, studying her like she had just handed him something valuable, something dangerous. And maybe she had. I didn't come here to play games, Nikki said, her voice tight, controlled. I came here because I needed to be honest. Kane tilted his head slightly, that familiar, calculating smirk slowly forming. Honest, with me, that's new. Nikki ignored the jab. She had bigger problems than his sarcasm. This involves Victor, she said quietly. Now that got his attention. It always did. Kane stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Well, now that changes things, doesn't it? Nikki hesitated. Just for a second. But Kane saw it. He always saw everything. You're worried, he said softly. That's not like you. I'm not worried, Nikki snapped. Then why come to me? Because she had no choice. Because Victor had gone too far this time. Because whatever storm was coming, she could feel it. I made a decision, Nikki finally said, one that Victor doesn't know about. Kane's eyes lit up. There it was. Leverage. Go on, he said almost too eagerly. Nikki exhaled slowly. I moved some assets. Silence. Then, Kane laughed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to make Nikki regret every second of this conversation. Oh, you did what? I protected myself, Nikki said firmly, and my family. Kane circled her slightly like a predator sensing opportunity, protected from Victor. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. That was answer enough. Kane stopped in front of her again, his expression now sharper, more focused. You realize what you're telling me, right? He said. Oh, yes. That Victor Newman, the great untouchable Victor, doesn't know that his own wife is making moves behind his back. Nikki's jaw tightened. I didn't come here to give you ammunitions. Then why come at all? Because she needed someone who understood power. Someone who understood consequences. And whether she liked it or not. Kane did. I came here because you know how these games work, Nikki said, and right now I need to know what happens next. Kane smiled. That was exactly what he wanted to hear. What happens next, he repeated, that depends. On what? On how far you're willing to go. Nikki's eyes hardened. I'm not afraid to do what's necessary. Kane landed slightly. Good, he said, because if Victor finds out this isn't just a disagreement, this is war. The word hung in the air. War. And Nikki knew. He wasn't exaggerating. Across town, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. Warm. Familiar. Dangerously nostalgic. Noah leaned back slightly, watching Audra as she laughed softly, her eyes shining with something that felt almost like the past. Remember that night in LA, she said. Noah smiled. How could I forget? That was the night everything changed. Noah nodded slowly. Yeah, it was. Back then, things were simpler. Or at least they seemed that way. You were different, Audra said, studying him, less guarded. And you were, Noah shot back. Audra smirked, I've always been exactly who I am. Now that's a lie. She laughed again. And for a moment, it felt easy. Too easy. Noah shifted slightly, his expression growing more serious. Why now? Audra's smile faded just a touch. What do you mean? This, he said, gesturing between them, the reminiscing, the good old days, why bring it up now? Audra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at him. Really looked at him. Maybe I miss it, she said quietly. Noah's chest tightened. That's not a reason. It's enough of one. Noah shook his head slightly. No, it's not with you. That hit. Audra's expression changed. Just for a second. But Noah caught it. Still don't trust me, she said. Oh, should I? Silence. The kind that says more than words ever could. Audra leaned back slightly, crossing her arms. You always did this. Did what? Act like you had everything figured out, like you could see right through me. Maybe I can. Their eyes locked. And suddenly, this wasn't light. This wasn't easy. This was something else entirely. Something unfinished. You don't know everything about me, Audra said softly. Then tell me. Another pause. Longer this time. More loaded. I'm not the same person I was back then, she said. Noah nodded, I know. Do you? Oh, yes. Then why does it feel like you're still judging me for who I used to be? Noah sighed. Because maybe he was. Because maybe he couldn't separate the past from the present. Because maybe he didn't want to. You hurt me, he said simply. Audra looked down for a moment, then back up. I know. And now you're here acting like, what, like we can just pick up where we left off. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Another silence. Thicker, heavier, and yet, neither of them walked away. That was the problem. That was always the problem. So what do you want, Audra? Noah asked quietly. The question lingered, hung between them. And Audra, she didn't answer right away. Because the truth was complicated. I want, she started then stopped. Noah leaned in slightly. What? Audra met his gaze. And for the first time since this conversation started, there was no smirk, no games, just honesty. I want to see if there's still something here. Noah's heart skipped. Just once. But that was enough. Because deep down, he already knew the answer. He just didn't want to admit it. Back at Kane's place, Nikki was already regretting everything. Kane poured himself a drink, completely at ease. Too at ease. You know, he said casually, most people would be terrified right now. I'm not most people. No, Kane agreed, you're not. He handed her a glass. She didn't take it. Suit yourself, he shrugged. Nikki crossed her arms, you're enjoying this. Of course I am, Kane said honestly. You just handed me the kind of information people kill for. I didn't come here to be threatened. I'm not threatening you, Kane said smoothly. I'm helping you. Nikki laughed, sharp, disbelieving. Helping me by reminding me how much damage you could do. Kane stepped closer again. Lowered his voice. I'm reminding you, he said, that you need me now. Nikki's expression hardened. I don't need anyone's. Everyone needs someone, Kane replied, especially when they're about to go up against Victor Newman. The name alone was enough to send a chill down her spine. Because Kane was right. Whether she liked it or not. This was bigger than her. Bigger than pride. Bigger than fear. So what do you suggest? She asked finally. Kane smiled again. That same dangerous smile. We stay one step ahead. And how do we do that? By making sure Victor never sees it coming. Nikki hesitated. Because that meant crossing a line. A line she wasn't sure she could come back from. But then again, maybe she already had. Across town, Noah stood up, packing slightly, trying to think clearly, which was impossible, with Audra standing right there. You're serious, he said. Oh yes, this isn't a game. I know. Noah stopped, turned to face her. Then what about Sienna? That changed everything. Audra's expression flickered. Just slightly. But enough. She's not part of this conversation, Audra said. She is if I'm involved. Audra stepped closer. Close enough that the tension between them became undeniable. This is about us, she said softly. No, Noah replied just as quietly. It's not just about us anymore. And that was the problem. Because whatever this was, it wasn't simple. It wasn't safe. And it definitely wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Nikki didn't sleep that night. She sat alone, staring into the darkness, replaying every word she had said to Kane. Every mistake, every risk. Because deep down, she knew exactly what she had done. She had handed a conniver a weapons. And now, it was only a matter of time before he used it. Morning came too quickly. And with it, the consequences. At the Newman ranch, the air felt different. Heavier. Victor stood by the window, silent, his hands clasped behind his back, watching, thinking. Waiting. Nikki stepped inside slowly. She didn't say anything at first. She didn't have to. Victor already knew something was off. He always did. You were out late, he said, his voice calm, too calm. Nikki forced herself to stay steady. I had things to take care of. Victor turned. Slowly. His eyes locked onto hers. What kind of things? There it was. The question she had been dreading. The moment everything could fall apart. Nikki walked further into the room, keeping her posture firm. Personal matters. Victor's gaze sharpened. Personal or secret? The word hit harder than it should have. But Nikki didn't flinch. I don't answer to you every second of the day. Victor stepped closer. Not aggressive. Not loud. But controlled. Dangerously controlled. You answer to me when it involves this family. Silence. Nikki felt it. The pressure. The weight of everything she was hiding. And for a second, she almost told him. Almost. But then she remembered Kane's words. This is war. And once war starts, there's no going back. I didn't do anything wrong, Nikki said firmly. Victor studied her. Longer this time. Deeper. As if he was trying to peel back every layer. And find the truth buried underneath. Then why do I feel like you're lying to me? He asked quietly. That question, that quiet, controlled question, was far more dangerous than any shout. Nikki held his gaze. I'm not. Victor didn't respond. He just looked at her. And in that moment, Nikki knew something had shifted. Not broken. Not yet. But cracked. And cracks. They spread. Across town, Noah couldn't shake the feeling in his chest. That pull. That confusion. That connection. Audra stood by the window, sunlight catching her face, but there was nothing soft about the tension between them now. Say something, she said. Noah ran a hand through his hair. I don't know what you want me to say. The truth would be a good start. He laughed quietly. You want the truth. Oh, yes. Noah stepped closer. Close enough that the air between them felt charged. The truth is, I don't trust this. Audra's jaw tightened. Or you don't trust me. Same thing. That stung. You think I haven't changed, she said. I think you're good at making people believe you have. Silence. Sharp. Cutting. Audra turned away slightly. And for the first time, she looked affected. Really affected. You don't get to decide who I am now, she said softly. No, Noah admitted, but I do get to decide what I believe. And you've already made up your mind. Noah didn't answer. Because she was right. Or at least, partially. Because the truth was, he didn't trust her. But he also couldn't ignore what he felt. And that was worse. Much worse. Audra turned back to him. Stepped closer. Closer than before. If I wanted to manipulate you, she said quietly, I wouldn't be standing here like this. Noah's eyes searched hers. Looking for a lie. Looking for a sign. But all he found was something real. Or at least, something that felt real. Then why are you here, he asked. Audra took a breath. A real one this time. I told you, she said. I want to see if there's still something between us. Noah's chest tightened again, because he already knew the answer. He just didn't want to say it out loud. And if there is, he asked. Audra didn't hesitate this time. Then we figure it out. And Sienna. There it was again. The name that complicated everything. Audra's expression shifted. Softer, but also more serious. That's your choice, she said, not mine. Noah frowned. You're saying you don't care. I'm saying I'm not going to pretend this isn't happening just because it's inconvenient. That honesty, it hit differently. Because it wasn't manipulation. It wasn't a game. It was raw and dangerous. Noah looked at her for a long moment. Then, he stepped back. Just slightly. But enough. This is a mistake, he said. Audra's face fell. Just a fraction. But it was there. Is it? She asked. Oh, yes. Even as he said it. It didn't feel true. But it was the safer answer. The right answer. Or at least, the answer he thought he should give. Audra nodded slowly. Okay, she said. Too easily. Too calmly. And that worried him more than anything's. Because Audra never walked away without a reason. Never. Okay, Noah repeated. Oh, yes. She grabbed her bag, turned toward the door, and just before she left, she stopped, looked back at him. One thing, Noah, she said softly. Oh, what? Audra held his gaze. If you really didn't feel anything, you wouldn't be trying this hard to convince yourself. And then, she walked out, leaving Noah standing there, with a truth he couldn't ignore anymore. Back at the ranch, Victor made a call. Short, direct, to the point. I want everything, he said, every move, every transaction, every detail. A pause. Then, yes, Victor added coldly, even hers. He hung up, slowly, deliberately, because if Nikki thought she could move behind his back, she was about to learn exactly who she was dealing with. Across town, Kane smiled, because he had already made his move. A quiet call, a quiet leak, just enough information to set everything in motion. You should have been more careful, Nikki, he muttered. Because now, it wasn't just about survival. It was about power. And Kane intended to win. Nikki stood alone again. This time, with a sinking feeling she couldn't shake. Because something had changed. She could feel it. Like the calm before a storm. And deep down, she knew the truth. Victor was already onto her. Kane was already using her. And she was caught in the middle, with nowhere left to run. Noah sat down slowly, Audra's words echoing in his mind. If you really didn't feel anything. He closed his eyes, took a breath, and then his phone buzzed. A message from Sienna. I think we need to talk. Noah stared at the screen, because somehow, everything was about to collide. And as the pieces started moving, as secrets began to surface, as lines were about to be crossed, one question remained. Who would fall first? And who would make it out of this? With nothing left to lose,